Hello? Hello?
Podcast Network Asia.
Hey guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. My name is Alec Cuenca and I'm your host. And before anything else, I would like to greet each and every one of you. Welcome back to the show. If this is your first time, then welcome to the show. I hope you learned something. And if you do, please go check out the other episodes because they have a lot of amazing insights that you can benefit from. And if you are an avid listener of the podcast, then welcome back. I hope that you take into your heart whatever we are going to talk about today because this is a very life-changing topic. And if you connect with the message that I'm trying to share in this episode, I hope that you go share it out on your social media platforms, share it with the people that you love so that it's not only us that will benefit, but also with the people around you. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to the people who are sharing the podcast on Instagram, the people who tag me at Small Talk Podcast. Thank you. Thank you so much. The podcast grows so much because of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Okay, so for this episode, we are going to talk about the only perspective you need to have. And let me start off by sharing a story. Once upon a time, an old farmer lived in a valley with his son, a handsome and beautiful youth. They lived a peaceful life despite a lack of material possessions. They were very happy, so much so that neighbors began to get envious and wanted to understand the secret of their happiness. One day, the old man used all of his savings to buy a young and beautiful horse. The very same day he bought it, the horse jumped the fence and escaped into the hills. The neighbors came to express their concern. "Oh, that's too bad. How are you going to work the fields now?" The farmer replied, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" In a few days, his horse came back from the hills and brought 8 fine horses with him. The neighbors again gathered around and said, "Oh, how lucky! Now you can do much work than ever before," they said. The farmer replied, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" The next day, the farmer's son fell off one of the new horses and broke his leg. "Such misfortune," said the neighbors. The leg healed crookedly and left the son with a permanent limp and endless pain. The neighbors were concerned again. "Now that he is incapacitated, he can't help you around. That's too bad." The farmer replied, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" Soon, the news came that war has broken out, and all the young men were required to join the army. The villagers were sad because they knew that many of the young men will not come back. The farmer's son could not be drafted because of his broken leg. His neighbors were envious. "How lucky! You get to keep your only son." The farmer replied, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And the narrative goes on. This is one story that I heard from Jay Shetty and just left a mark on me. And for the longest time, that's how I see life. I learned that there's so much danger in labeling things as good and bad. When we label things as good, we don't take the time to look upon the things that we can improve on them. When we label things as bad, we block ourselves from actually seeing the lessons that it's trying to teach us. One thing that I've learned is that we have the power to choose the meaning behind the things that are happening around us. We have control over our life's narrative. There is no good or bad. I've been reading a lot of Stoic content lately, and I've learned that they also think the same. that they don't try to label things as good or bad. And Stoics are one of the wisest people on earth that has ever lived here. They know that there is really no good or bad, only perception. And I hope that we try our best to think like them. In my life, I had a lot of misfortunes, as some people would label it. One thing that I noticed is that this is how I looked at life. Ever since I was a small kid, I didn't see it as this concept or this kind of thought, but this is how I lived my life. Growing up, my mother was in abroad and my father was addicted to gambling. And sometimes he would leave us and I would take care of my brothers. A lot of people might say, oh, that's unlucky. That's a misfortune. That's such a bad thing that happened to you. But from that experience, I know that I learned a lot of skills. I know that I knew that I had to take care of my brothers, that I had to keep going. And at a very early age, I knew that life isn't going to be easy. And life isn't like the ones that you see in the movies. It's nothing like that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very challenging. But it goes on. You need to continue. And then, as I was growing up, I was always an honor. I'm not an honor student, but I'm always at the section 1, the first section in our batch. But when I was in second year high school, I fell off to the second section. And on my third year, I also stayed in the second section. And a lot of people might say, oh, that's unlucky. You've been relegated. You've been you've been downgraded, right? But it turns out that me not having to focus heavily on my studies, on my academes, gave me more time to do some extracurricular activities. So I ran for vice president of student council. And there I learned a lot of intrapersonal skills, communication skills that I still hold dearly today. Some of you may know I'm in a relationship with my long-term girlfriend. We're almost 11 years now. And we took a short break back in 2017. And for some people, they would say that that's a very sad story to see long-term relationship break up like that. But looking back, I know that it was necessary for me to see that our teenage years has been very codependent with each other, that we needed this time to actually try to see the world from an independent point of view. And so we did. And our relationship came back stronger than ever. And in my college life, I'm taking a very long time compared to other people finishing my degree, my 4-year degree in Mapua. And a lot of people would say, maybe you're just too slow. Maybe that's one of your cross that you need to carry. It's one of your burdens. It's taking too long for you. But for me, if I didn't take something that would let me have my time to study about self-help, self-improvement, motivation, leadership, management, and all those stuff that I learned from the library, from having all the free time, of being a regular student, of having the free time to actually read these books, I wouldn't be here speaking to you guys. So the misfortunes that I have, that people label as misfortunes, are actually blessings. And that's one thing that I learned. There are only 2 things in life: blessings and blessings in disguise. And I know I know it's hard. It's a tough, and it's a tough pill to swallow. To say that everything is happening for you. You know, a lot of people are thinking that life or the struggles, the challenges are happening to them, but they don't see that life is happening for them. It's all part of the big plan that life has for you. Every circumstance that you experience, that you have in your life, is a benefit. It's solely benefiting you for your growth, for your progress, for your life. And I know it's hard to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard fact to accept. But sometimes we can only see the lessons that life is teaching us when we connect the dots moving backwards. It's so much easier to understand what's happening after we give it time, after we give us space, our minds space to think and realize what the lesson is. But if we label things as a bad thing, we won't be able to see the lessons because we hold that grudge deep into our hearts and we won't try to learn anything from it. And so that's the main thing that I want to share with you in this episode is we have the power to control the narrative of our life. We have the power, we have the choice to actually see what happens in our life. I could remember a time that I was about to give up back in 2017, and if my story ended there, I wouldn't be able to see the blessings of the pain that I was experiencing at that moment. Because at that moment, I was blacked out. All I could see is pain. All I was feeling was hurt. And it's dangerous for you to actually impose someone that it is a blessing in disguise, because I understand it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of hurt. And I'm not trying to impose you guys. If you're experiencing a very hard time in your life right now, it's going to be hard for you to see that. But it's the truth. We've seen it from a lot of people, of successful people in our life. The most successful people have the most harshest rock bottoms. But most of the time, probably if you have the mindset that could see them, if we don't label things as bad or good, and we just open ourselves to the fact that it may be an opportunity to learn, it's going to be one of the best lessons that we could ever learn in life. The most painful experiences bring the most valuable lessons that we need. And we need to have that kind of mindset. To be open, to find goodness in every situation possible. We need to treat every experience that we have as an opportunity. An opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. Life is not happening to us. Life is happening for us. Always remember that. And so I want you guys, so I'm going to leave you guys with that kind of thought. This week, try to look at things a little bit differently. Once challenges and struggles arise, ask yourself, is it a good thing? A bad thing? Or simply an opportunity? Take that into heart. And that's what I have for you for this episode. This is a short one, but a very meaningful one. I hope you apply this in your life. This has certainly been one of the most important mindset or perspective that I apply in my life. This has been one of my secrets in living a peaceful life. And no, it's not a perfect one. My life's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But I can say that I find peace in most of the things, most of the days in my life, because I understand that the universe has big plans for me. And if I focus too much on the little things that hurt me, that give me pain, I might not see the plans go through. So, always believe that this struggle you're experiencing is a part of your story. It will make your success and your victory much, much sweeter. So, thank you so much for listening on this episode. I hope you learned something. If you guys love this episode, I hope you share it on Instagram. Tag me at Small Talk Podcast, and I always repost everyone who tags me. If you guys are listening on Apple Podcasts, do not forget to leave this podcast a rating and review. It helps the podcast a lot. And yeah, if you guys a few announcements before I go. Again, I am open to. I have a few slots available for the coaching services. If you're interested in having me as your coach, as your mindset coach, go message me on Instagram at Small Talk Podcast. And if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, go to whereyourmindset.com/newsletters to receive weekly motivational ideas that can help you make better decisions for you and for the people around you. And yeah, my name is Alec Cuenca. This is Small Talk Podcast. And I hope that you have a very peaceful week ahead of you. Talk to you guys next episode. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.